Customers didn't use her name, at least not like that, not with that particular weight, as if he'd been carrying it around waiting for the right moment to speak it aloud. Slowly, she turned back. "Sir?" Alessandro leaned back slightly, one arm draped across the booth's leather seat, completely relaxed, completely in control. "You've worked here how long?" Warning bells. Every instinct she'd honed screamed danger. 8 months, sir. You're good at your job." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the certainty of someone who didn't waste words on polite lies. "Thank you, sir." "You're also afraid." The pen nearly slipped from her fingers. One of the suits finally looked up, frowning. "Alessandro, what? Give us a moment." Alessandro didn't raise his voice. Didn't even look at the man. But the dismissal was absolute. Both suits exchanged glances, then slid out of the booth without another word, heading toward the bar with the practiced ease of men who knew when not to argue, which left Haley alone with him. Every nerve in her body screamed to run, to make an excuse, to get back to the safety of the kitchen, the crowd, anywhere but here, under the focused attention of a man who saw too much. "I'm not afraid, sir. I'm working, if you'll excuse me. Someone hurt you." He said it quietly, almost gently, but with the same certainty he'd said everything else. "Recently enough that you still flinch when men raise their voices. Badly enough that you've trained yourself to take up less space, avoid eye contact, become forgettable." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I don't know what you're safe here." 3 words, simple, direct, and completely terrifying in their implication. "I need to put your orders in." Her voice came out too tight, too high. Professional distance crumbling. "Excuse me." This time he let her go. Haley made it to the kitchen before her hands started shaking. She braced herself against the stainless steel prep counter, breathing through her nose, counting backwards from 10 like her therapist had taught her. He doesn't know anything. He's guessing. Rich men play games. It doesn't mean anything. But her body didn't believe the lies her mind was trying to sell. "You good?" Carlos, one of the line cooks, looked up from the sauté station. "Fine." She straightened, forced her hands steady. "Just need to put in an order." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of mechanical efficiency. She brought drinks, took dinner orders, smiled at the right moments, kept her distance from the VIP booth except when absolutely necessary. And the entire time she felt Alessandro's eyes on her. Not constantly, not obviously, but periodically, like a lighthouse beam sweeping across dark water, she'd feel that weight of attention again and know without looking that he was watching. By the time his party finished their meal, a 3-hour affair involving multiple courses and what looked like serious business discussion conducted in low Italian, Haley's nerves were stretched wire-thin. She delivered the check in its leather portfolio, set it beside Alessandro without a word, and turned to leave. "Haley." She stopped but didn't turn around. Couldn't. If she looked at him again, she might shatter. "You dropped this." She did turn then, confused, because she hadn't dropped anything. Alessandro held out a business card. Heavy stock. Embossed lettering. No company name, just a phone number. "I didn't." "You will." He set it on the table between them. "When you're ready." Ready for what? For the first time that evening, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Sad, almost, in its understanding. "To stop running." Before she could respond, he stood, pulled out his wallet, and placed several bills on top of the check, far more than the meal cost, even with a generous tip. Then he walked away. Haley stood there, frozen, staring at the business card like it might explode. Her logical brain screamed to throw it away, to forget this entire interaction, to go back to her carefully constructed invisibility and never think about the dark-eyed stranger who'd seen through her so completely. She picked up the card, slipped it into her apron pocket, and hated herself for it. The next 3 days passed normally. Haley worked her shifts, went home to her studio apartment in Queens, 4th floor walk-up, triple locks on the door, furniture positioned to give clear sightlines to all entrances. She grocery shopped at the bodega 2 blocks away, where the owner knew her face but not her name. She called her mother in Portland once, a brief conversation full of careful omissions and reassurances that everything was fine. Everything was always fine, Until Thursday evening, when Tyler walked through Luminar's front door. Haley saw him before he saw her, a small mercy that gave her exactly 3 seconds to make a choice. Run to the kitchen. Hide in the bathroom. Pretend to be busy with another table and pray he didn't notice. But her body had already made the decision, flooding with the particular cocktail of adrenaline and ice-cold terror that only one person had ever triggered. Tyler Cross, her ex-husband. The reason she'd changed her last name, moved across the country, and learned to sleep with a chair wedged under the doorknob. He looked exactly the same. Sandy blonde hair, athletic build. The kind of handsome that made people trust him immediately, right up until they saw what lived behind those blue eyes. He scanned the restaurant like a predator scenting prey. And found her. His smile could have frozen blood. Haley forced herself to breathe, forced herself to move. She had exactly one advantage here. This was a public place. Crowded, well lit. Tyler was many things, but he was careful. He wouldn't make a scene. Wouldn't risk his reputation, his carefully cultivated image of the charming, successful businessman who'd been so tragically left by his unstable wife. He'd wait until later, until she was alone, which meant she had to get rid of him now. She intercepted him before he could reach the hostess stand. Tyler. Baby. His voice dripped false warmth. I've been looking everywhere for you. You need to leave. We need to talk. No. She kept her voice low, aware of nearby diners. Leave. Now. His hand shot out, fingers closing around her wrist like a manacle. The same grip, the same pressure, the same casual ownership. I told you, he said quietly, smile never wavering. You're mine. You think you can just run, change your name, disappear? His fingers tightened, grinding the bones of her wrist together. I'm your husband. Ex-husband. The divorce doesn't mean shit. He started pulling her toward the door, maintaining his smile for anyone watching. We're leaving. Together. And if you make a scene, I'll make sure everyone here knows exactly what kind of person you really are. All those police reports, the restraining order you tried to file, I have lawyers who'll bury you. Panic clawed at her throat. He was right. He always had lawyers. Money, connections. She had nothing. Just a new name and a carefully constructed life that was already crumbling. Remove your hand. Now. The voice cut through the restaurant noise like a blade through silk. Alessandro stood 3 feet away. He'd appeared from nowhere, or maybe Haley had been too focused on Tyler to notice him enter. But he was there now, dressed in another expensive suit, dark eyes fixed on Tyler with the kind of cold attention that made the temperature drop. Tyler's grip loosened slightly, but he didn't let go. This is a private conversation. This is my restaurant. Alessandro took 1 step closer. Just one. But the air pressure changed with the movement. And I don't permit domestic disputes on the property. Your restaurant? Tyler laughed, but it came out uncertain. Look, man, this is between me and my wife. Ex-wife, Haley whispered. She's an employee, under my protection. Alessandro's voice remained perfectly level, perfectly calm, but something in his stillness suggested violence held on a very short leash. I'll say it once more. Remove your hand. For a long moment, Tyler didn't move. His ego and his survival instinct warred visibly across his face. Survival won. He released Haley's wrist but leaned in close. This isn't over. Yes, Alessandro said. It is. 2 men in dark suits materialized from somewhere in the restaurant. Not servers. Security, maybe? Though Haley had never seen them before. They flanked Tyler with professional efficiency. These gentlemen will see you out, Alessandro continued. If you return, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. If you contact Haley again, at work, at home, anywhere, I'll ensure the authorities become very interested in your business dealings. Am I clear? Tyler opened his mouth, closed it. The calculation happened fast, risk versus reward, ego versus self-preservation. Crystal, he finally said. He shot Haley one last look, promising violence, promising consequences, and then let the security team escort him out. The restaurant had gone quiet. Diners pretended not to stare. Servers clustered near the kitchen, whispering. Haley stood frozen, her wrist throbbing where Tyler's fingers had dug in. Come with me. Alessandro's hand hovered near her elbow but didn't touch. Please. She should refuse, should insist she was fine, go back to work, pretend this hadn't happened. Instead, she followed him. He led her to the back of the restaurant through a door marked private, up a narrow staircase, and into an office she'd never known existed, sleek, modern, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan's glittering sprawl. Alessandro poured something amber from a crystal decanter, pressed the glass into her shaking hands. Drink. She did. The whiskey burned her throat, but it cut through the shock. How long? He asked. Haley stared at the glass. How long what? How long has he been looking for you? 2 years, since the divorce. She laughed, but it came out broken. I changed my name, moved 3 times, changed jobs. It doesn't matter, he always finds me. Not anymore. The certainty in his voice made her look up. Alessandro stood by the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the city lights. In that moment, he looked less like a restaurant owner and more like something else entirely. Something dangerous. You can't just, he has lawyers, money, connections, I have more. 3 words. Simple, direct, and absolutely true. Haley set down the glass before she dropped it. Who are you? Someone who doesn't allow predators to hunt in his territory. He turned to face her. You're safe here, Haley. That's not a promise. It's a fact. Why? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why do you care? You don't know me. I'm just a waitress. I'm nobody. You're not nobody. Alessandro crossed to his desk, pulled out a folder, set it between them. And I know exactly who you are. Her blood went cold. Inside the folder, copies of her name change documents, her lease, employment records, and worst of all, the police reports, the hospital records. Every piece of documentation from her marriage to Tyler, the abuse, the escape attempts, the failed restraining order, everything she'd tried to bury. How did you? I own this restaurant, Alessandro said quietly. I run background checks on all my employees. Standard procedure. When yours came back, I started paying attention. Horror and fury warred in her chest. You had no right. You're correct, I didn't. He didn't look away, didn't make excuses. But I did it anyway, because men like your ex-husband don't stop. They escalate. And I wanted to be prepared when he inevitably found you. Prepared. She stood, anger giving her strength. This isn't preparation. This is surveillance. This is control. You're just like him. No. The word came out hard, final. I am nothing like him. He wanted to own you. I want to protect you. There's a difference. I don't need... Everyone needs protection, Haley. The question is whether you're too proud to accept it. She wanted to scream, to throw the glass, to storm out and never come back. Instead, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since Thursday. What do you want from me? Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. Then, nothing you're not willing to give. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He gestured to the folder. I know what he did to you. I know you spent 3 months in a women's shelter. I know he sabotaged your job applications, your credit, your reputation. I know you're still paying off medical bills from the last time he put you in the hospital. Each word landed like a blow. I can erase all of it, Alessandro continued. The debt, the damaged credit, the false police reports he filed claiming you were the aggressor. I can make sure he never finds you again. I can give you the fresh start you actually deserve, not just the survival you've scraped together. It sounded too good to be true. It sounded like a trap. And what do you want in return? Your trust. He said it simply. Eventually, not now, you're not ready, but someday when you are, I want you to know that you can trust me. Why? She whispered. His expression shifted, something raw and ancient moving beneath the controlled surface. Because I know what it's like to lose someone to violence and be powerless to stop it. The weight of that confession hung in the air between them. Haley realized she was crying. Silent tears tracking down her face, her body finally releasing the terror it had been holding since the moment Tyler walked through the door. Alessandro pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, actual cloth, monogrammed, and held it out. She took it. I need time, she said. Take all you need. I need to think. I understand. I need... She didn't know how to finish that sentence. Alessandro did it for her. You need to feel safe. So here's what's going to happen. Starting tomorrow, you'll have security. Discreet, professional. They'll make sure he doesn't come near you again. Your apartment will be secured. Better locks, security system, whatever you need. And this, he pulled out another business card identical to the first, is a direct line. Day or night, you call, and I answer, no questions, no conditions. She stared at the card, at him, at the life he was offering with such casual certainty. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. This isn't normal. No, he agreed. It's not. I don't understand what you don't have to. He moved toward the door. Not yet. For now, just accept that you're under my protection. Everything else can wait until you're ready. He opened the door, paused. Haley, one more thing. She looked up. Tomorrow, when you come to work, you'll find your section has changed. You're being moved to private events. Better hours. Better pay. Consider it a promotion. I don't want special treatment. It's not special treatment. It's strategic positioning. Private events mean controlled environments, vetted guests, no walk-ins. His dark eyes found hers. No surprises. Understanding dawned. He was moving her somewhere safer, somewhere Tyler couldn't reach. Alessandro? She used his first name for the first time, tested it on her tongue. It felt dangerous and right all at once. Yes? Thank you. He nodded once. Then he was gone, leaving her alone in his office with a handkerchief, a business card, and the terrifying realization that her carefully invisible life had just become very visible to a very dangerous man. A man who'd just declared her under his protection. A man whose attention felt less like a spotlight and more like a fortress wall rising around her. And she didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. Maybe both. Probably both. She folded the handkerchief carefully, slipped the business card into her pocket next to the first one, and made her way back downstairs. The restaurant had returned to normal. Diners ate. Servers moved. The world continued as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Haley Cross was no longer invisible. And the man who'd made sure of it was either her salvation or her next nightmare. Only time would tell which. The security arrived the next morning. Haley woke to find a text message on her phone from an unknown number. Brief. Professional. The kind of message that suggested the sender dealt in facts, not pleasantries. Security team will arrive at 800 to assess your residence. No entry required unless you consent. Team leader, Marcus Webb. She checked the time. 7:45. 15 minutes to decide whether to let strangers into her carefully guarded space or to call Alessandro and tell him this was too much, too fast, too invasive. Her wrist still ached where Tyler had grabbed her. At exactly 8 o'clock, her building's intercom buzzed. Marcus Webb turned out to be a man in his late 40s with graying temples, sharp eyes, and the kind of posture that suggested military background. He stood in her hallway with two colleagues, one woman, one man, both dressed in civilian clothes that somehow still screamed security personnel. Ms. Cross, Marcus kept his voice low, respectful of the early hour and thin apartment walls. We're here to evaluate your current security situation and make recommendations. Mr. Ferraro was very clear. Nothing happens without your explicit approval. Haley stood in her doorway, arms crossed. And if I say no? Then we leave, no questions, no pressure. Marcus shifted his weight slightly, and for the first time she noticed he was deliberately positioning himself so she had a clear path to retreat into her apartment. Not blocking, not threatening. But I'd ask you to let us at least take a look. Knowledge is power. Even if you decide not to implement our suggestions, you should know what vulnerabilities exist. It was a fair point, and something in his demeanor, professional, calm, not trying to strong-arm her into anything, made her step aside. You have 15 minutes. More than enough. They moved through her studio apartment with practiced efficiency. Marcus examined the locks, the windows, the fire escape access. The woman, she introduced herself as Jennifer, checked sight lines from the street, photographed the entrance, made notes on a tablet. The third team member, David, stayed near the door, silent and watchful. Haley perched on the edge of her bed, watching them catalog every weakness in her fortress. "Your locks are decent," Marcus finally said, "but the doorframe is soft wood. A solid kick would splinter it. Windows are single-pane street-level access via the fire escape. The building has no security system, no cameras in the hallways, and your neighbors," he checked his tablet, "include 2 registered sex offenders and a man currently out on bail for assault." Her stomach dropped. "I didn't know that." "Most people don't." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "You chose this place for cash rent, no background check, quick move in. That tells me you were running and needed somewhere fast. But what protected you then won't protect you now. Not if your ex knows where you work." "He doesn't know where I live." "Yet." Jennifer looked up from her tablet. "But he found your workplace. That means he's been tracking you. Credit cards, social media, mutual contacts. There are a dozen ways to trace someone. If he's determined, he'll find this address within a week." The walls felt like they were closing in. "What do you recommend?" The words came out smaller than she intended. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her a series of photos. "We have a property 2 blocks from here, 6th floor, doorman building, security cameras, reinforced doors, panic buttons in every room. It's furnished, utilities included, available immediately. Mr. Ferraro has already arranged for the first year's rent to be covered." "I can't accept—" "It's not charity, it's logistics." Marcus pocketed his phone. "You're an employee of Luminara, mister. Ferraro provides housing assistance to staff who need it. There's paperwork. It's all legitimate. You'd sign a lease, pay a nominal fee each month, whatever you're comfortable with, but you'd be safe." It sounded too perfect, which meant it had to be a trap. "And what happens when I want to leave? When I decide I don't want to be under Alessandro's protection anymore?" "You give 30 days notice and move out, same as any lease." Marcus met her eyes directly. "Miss Cross, I've worked for Mr. Ferraro for 8 years. I've seen him extend this kind of protection to exactly 3 people in that time. You know what they all had in common?" She shook her head. "They'd all survived something terrible. And they all needed help rebuilding. Not one of them was ever asked for anything in return. Not one of them was ever prevented from leaving when they chose to." He paused. "Mr. Ferraro doesn't collect debts. He settles them." "Settles them?" "Debts the world owes to people who deserve better." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implications Haley wasn't sure she wanted to examine. "I need to see the apartment." Of course. The new apartment was everything Marcus had promised and more. Hardwood floors, actual sunlight, a kitchen with appliances that all worked, a bedroom separate from the living space, windows that locked securely and overlooked a quiet courtyard instead of a fire escape. It felt like a palace compared to her current place. It felt like a cage made of kindness. "I'll take it," she heard herself say. Marcus nodded once. "We can have you moved by tomorrow evening." "That fast?" Mr. Ferraro was hopeful you'd say yes. Of course he was. Because Alessandro seemed to operate several moves ahead of everyone else, anticipating needs before they were spoken, arranging solutions before problems fully materialized. It should have been comforting. Instead, it was terrifying. Back at her old apartment, Haley stood in the center of her studio and tried to inventory what needed packing. Not much. She'd learned to live light, ready to run at a moment's notice. Clothes, books, a few photos. Everything else was replaceable. Her phone buzzed. Alessandro's number. She'd saved it last night, though she'd told herself she wouldn't. "Marcus says you accepted the new residence. Thank you for trusting us." She stared at the message. Typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, "Thank you for the opportunity. Professional. Neutral." Creating distance even as the walls between them crumbled. His response came immediately. "You start private events tonight, 6 p.m. Wear something comfortable. The dress code is more relaxed for those assignments." Then, after a pause, "How is your wrist?" She looked down at the bruise blooming purple across her skin where Tyler's fingers had dug in. "It's fine. Liar." The single word shouldn't have made her smile. But it did. Because he was right. And because somehow being called out felt less invasive than being coddled. "It hurts. But I've had worse." This time the pause stretched longer. When his response came, it carried weight. "I know. I read the hospital records, and I'm sorry that you've had to become someone who measures pain by comparison." Tears stung her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. I need to pack. Of course, I'll see you tonight. She set the phone down and got to work. The private event that evening turned out to be a birthday celebration for a tech mogul's daughter, 21st birthday, 200 of her closest friends, and enough champagne to float a small yacht. The venue was Luminara's entire second floor, which Haley hadn't even known existed. She arrived through the staff entrance to find the space transformed. String lights, live music, a dessert bar that looked like edible architecture. And standing near this bar, checking details with the event coordinator, was Alessandro. He looked up as she entered. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, assessment, and something else she couldn't quite name. Haley, good. Come here. She crossed to him, acutely aware of the other staff members watching, not unkindly, just curious. The new girl being personally greeted by the owner wasn't exactly subtle. I want to introduce you to someone. Alessandro gestured to an older woman beside him, silver hair, sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. This is Sofia Martinelli. She runs all our private events. You'll be working directly with her. Sofia extended a hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Alessandro speaks highly of you. Does he? Haley couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. He does, which is unusual. Alessandro doesn't speak highly of many people. Sofia's eyes twinkled. He said you have excellent instincts for reading a room and anticipating needs. That's the core skill for event work. I'll do my best. I'm sure you will. Sofia pulled out a tablet, called up a floor plan. Tonight is straightforward. We have 20 servers, 4 bartenders, and you. Your job is to float. Watch for problems before they develop. Guest looks uncomfortable? Get them a drink and a quiet corner. Someone's had too much champagne. Arrange their car service home. Argument brewing? De-escalate or alert security. Think of yourself as a social traffic controller. It sounded overwhelming and perfect all at once. I can do that. I know. Sofia smiled. That's why you're here. Now go. Guests arrive in 15 minutes. And Haley? Alessandro was right about you. Before Haley could ask what that meant, Sofia was gone, absorbed into the controlled chaos of final preparations. Alessandro remained. You didn't have to do this, Haley said quietly. I know. I could have kept working the dining room. You could have. He adjusted his cufflinks, a small gesture that somehow communicated he was choosing his words carefully. But you shouldn't have to spend every shift watching the door, wondering if he'll walk through. This position gives you more control, more security, better pay, and it develops skills that transfer anywhere. You mean skills I can use when I inevitably run again? I mean skills you can use to build whatever life you want. Alessandro's dark eyes found hers. Running or staying, that's your choice. Always. I'm just trying to make sure you have actual choices instead of just survival options. A crash from the kitchen saved her from having to respond. Sofia's voice rose in rapid Italian, and Alessandro excused himself to handle whatever crisis had developed. Haley stood alone in the transformed space and tried to understand what was happening to her life. 48 hours ago, she'd been invisible, safe in her anonymity, alone but surviving. Now she had security teams, a new apartment, a new position, and a dangerous man who seemed determined to give her everything she needed while asking for nothing in return. It didn't make sense. Men always wanted something. Tyler had taught her that lesson with his fists and his false apologies. Every kind gesture had been currency he'd later demand repayment for, with interest. But Alessandro, he was different, or he was better at hiding his intentions. She couldn't decide which. The guests began arriving, and Haley pushed her doubts aside. She had a job to do. The evening unfolded like clockwork. Haley moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, solving small problems before they became large ones. A drunk guest who needed water and a quiet seat. 2 ex-friends on the verge of a public argument, gently separated and redirected to opposite sides of the venue. A spilled drink cleaned before anyone could slip. She was good at this, better than she'd expected. Around 9 o'clock, she felt it again, that particular weight of attention. She turned to find Alessandro watching from the second-floor balcony. He stood alone, a glass of wine in his hand, observing the party below with the detached interest of someone who existed adjacent to the celebration rather than within it. Their eyes met across the distance. He raised his glass slightly. Acknowledgement. A question, maybe. She nodded once. I'm okay. He smiled. Just barely. Then someone approached him. An older man in an expensive suit, and Alessandro's attention shifted. But for those few seconds, Haley had felt seen. Not scrutinized, not assessed. Just seen. It should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt like relief. The party wound down around midnight. Guests filtered out in cheerful, champagne-soaked clusters. The catering staff began breaking down stations. Sophia found Haley near the dessert bar. You did well tonight, very well. She pressed an envelope into Haley's hands. Your pay. Alessandro insists on cash for event staff, easier for tax purposes, and some of our team prefers it. Haley opened the envelope, froze. This is too much. That's the standard rate for event coordination. I didn't coordinate, I just helped. You prevented 3 potential disasters and made sure 200 drunk 20-year-olds got home safely. That's coordination. Sophia patted her arm. Keep it. You earned it, and I'll see you Friday. We have a corporate dinner that needs the same treatment. She walked away before Haley could argue. The money in the envelope represented more than she made in a week of regular shifts. For the first time in 2 years, she could breathe without calculating whether her bank account would survive until the next paycheck. You look shell-shocked. Alessandro emerged from the shadows near the bar. Most of the staff had left. The space was nearly empty now, just the 2 of them and the ghost of the party that had been. I don't understand this, Haley said. The pay rate? All of it. The apartment, the new position, the security. You don't even know me. I know enough. He moved closer but stopped a careful distance away, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to give her space. I know you worked 3 jobs to put yourself through nursing school. I know you stayed with your mother through her cancer treatment instead of accepting a hospital position across the country. I know you married Tyler because he seemed safe and kind, and by the time you realized he was neither, you were trapped. Each fact landed like a stone. I know you tried to leave him 4 times, that he found you every time, that the last time he put you in the hospital for 6 days. Alessandro's voice remained steady, but something dangerous moved beneath the calm. I know the police didn't help, that the restraining order was dismissed, that his lawyers made you look like the aggressor in your own abuse. Stop. She couldn't hear anymore, couldn't stand having her history recited like evidence in a case she'd already lost. I know you're one of the strongest people I've ever met, Alessandro finished quietly, and I know you deserve better than survival. Haley's hands were shaking. She gripped the envelope tighter, using the physical sensation to anchor herself. Why do you care? I told you. I lost someone to violence, someone I should have protected. His expression went distant. My sister, Juliana. She was 19. Beautiful, kind. She fell in love with the wrong man. I saw the signs, the way he isolated her, controlled her, diminished her. But I was young, arrogant. I thought she'd leave when she was ready. What happened? He killed her. The words came out flat, final. Beat her to death in their apartment while I was across town closing a business deal. By the time I found her, it was too late. Horror washed through Haley. Alessandro, I'm so... Don't apologize. It was 15 years ago. I've learned to carry it. He met her eyes, but I made myself a promise. Never again. Never would I see the signs and do nothing. Never would I let someone suffer because I was too proud or too careful to intervene. Understanding crystallized. That's what this is. I'm your penance. No, he said it firmly. You're not my penance. You're not my redemption. You're not a project or a charity case. He took a breath. You're someone who needed help, and I have the resources to provide it. That's all. That's not all. She struggled for the right word. You're saving me. I'm giving you tools. You're saving yourself. Alessandro pulled out his phone, checked something, then looked back at her. Your new apartment is ready. Marcus and his team finished the move. Everything from your old place is there, plus some basics. Furniture, linens, stocked kitchen. If there's anything you don't want or need, just let them know. The efficiency was staggering and overwhelming. I don't know how to thank you. Be safe. That's enough. He started to leave, then paused. Haley, one more thing. Tyler filed a missing persons report this afternoon. Claimed you were emotionally unstable and he was worried for your safety. Her blood ran cold. He's trying to establish a narrative where he's the concerned husband and you're the irrational wife. It won't work. I have lawyers who've already contacted the police with documentation of your divorce, the prior domestic violence reports, and your restraining order attempts. They're aware of his pattern. The report has been flagged as a harassment tactic. How did you know he filed, "I have people monitoring these things"? Alessandro's expression was unreadable. He can't move against you without me knowing, and he can't hurt you without consequences. That's what protection means. Part of her wanted to be angry at the surveillance, at the invasion of privacy, at the way Alessandro seemed to have his fingers in every aspect of her life now. But a larger part, the part that still flinched at sudden noises and slept with a baseball bat beside her bed, felt something else entirely. Gratitude. And terror that she was beginning to depend on it. "Get some rest," Alessandro said. "You've had a long day." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in the empty event space with an envelope full of cash and the unsettling realization that her life had been completely reorganized by a man she barely knew, a man who saw her, protected her, asked for nothing, a man who was either her salvation or the most dangerous trap she'd ever walked into. The new apartment felt foreign in the darkness. Haley moved through the unfamiliar space, finding her few possessions carefully arranged, clothes in the closet, books on the shelf, photos on the nightstand. Someone had even hung curtains that matched the bedding. It was perfect. It was terrifying. She stood at the window, looking down at the quiet courtyard 6 floors below, and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 2 days. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus. Security is active. 2 team members on rotation 24/7. Street entrance, parking garage, and service entrance all monitored. Panic button is the red device on your nightstand. Press and hold for 3 seconds if you need immediate assistance. Sleep well." She found the panic button. Sleek. Professional. A physical manifestation of protection. Another text. This one from Alessandro. "I hope the apartment is acceptable. If anything isn't to your liking, just say the word. She should maintain distance. Should keep this professional. Should not let herself get drawn further into whatever web he was weaving. Instead," she typed, "It's perfect. Thank you for everything." His response came quickly. "You're welcome. And Haley, you're safe now. Try to believe that." She wanted to, desperately, but safety had always been temporary. A brief intermission between disasters. Still, standing in her new apartment, with reinforced doors and panic buttons and security teams, she let herself imagine what it might feel like to actually be safe. Not just surviving, not just running, but genuinely, lastingly safe. It felt like a fairy tale. And she'd learned long ago that fairy tales didn't exist in the real world. But Alessandro Ferraro wasn't real world. He was something else, something that operated by different rules, commanded different resources, existed in a space between legitimate business and something darker. The question was whether his protection would free her or bind her more completely than Tyler ever had. The answer would come. Eventually. For now, she had a new apartment, a new position, and a dangerous man's promise that she was safe. Whether that promise was salvation or damnation remained to be seen. She climbed into the unfamiliar bed, set her phone on the nightstand beside the panic button, and tried to sleep. It took hours. But when she finally drifted off for the first time in 2 years, she didn't dream of Tyler's fists. She dreamed of dark eyes and quiet promises, and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to run anymore. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Haley worked private events 3 to 4 times a week. Corporate dinners, anniversary parties, gallery openings. Each one paid better than a full week of regular restaurant shifts. Each one gave her more confidence, more skills, more proof that she was capable of building something beyond mere survival. Marcus checked in daily. Brief texts confirming security status, updating her on Tyler's movements. He'd returned to Boston, was being monitored, had made no attempts to contact her. Alessandro remained carefully distant. She saw him at events, always professional, always courteous. He'd ask how she was settling in, if she needed anything, if the work was manageable. Nothing more, nothing less. It should have been a relief. Instead, she found herself watching for him, noticing when he arrived at events, tracking his movements through the crowd, wondering what he was thinking behind those dark, unreadable eyes. Sophia noticed. "You're staring," she said one evening, 3 weeks into Haley's new position. They were setting up for a wedding reception, 200 guests, 5-course meal, and enough flowers to open a garden center. "I'm not." "You are. And you're not the first." Sophia adjusted a centerpiece with practiced efficiency. "Alessandro has that effect. Powerful, mysterious, dangerous in a way that makes smart women curious and foolish women reckless. I'm neither curious nor reckless." "Liar," Sophia smiled. "But that's good. Curiosity keeps you sharp. Just remember, Alessandro Ferraro is not a man who does anything casually. If he's invested this much in your safety, there's a reason." "He told me about his sister." "Did he?" Sophia looked genuinely surprised. "Then he trusts you more than I realized. He doesn't share that story often." "What else should I know about him?" "That he's loyal to a fault. That he keeps his promises. That he's made enemies protecting people who couldn't protect themselves." Sophia paused. "And that he's been alone for a very long time because he doesn't let anyone close enough to hurt him." The words settled like stones. Before Haley could respond, guests began arriving, and the conversation dissolved into the controlled chaos of event coordination. But later, during a quiet moment while the bride and groom cut the cake, Haley found herself watching Alessandro again. He stood on the periphery of the celebration, alone despite the crowd, observing with that same detached interest she'd noticed before. Their eyes met. This time she didn't look away. Neither did he. And in that moment, Haley realized something terrifying. She wasn't just grateful for his protection. She was beginning to trust him, which meant she was beginning to care. And caring was the most dangerous thing she could possibly do. The moment stretched between them like a taut wire, humming with unspoken possibilities. Then someone dropped a champagne flute near the dessert table, shattering both glass and the connection, and Alessandro turned away to handle the disruption while Haley forced herself back to work. But the awareness remained. A low current running beneath every interaction, every glance, every carefully professional conversation. She was in trouble. The trouble arrived in full force 2 nights later, though not in the way she expected. Haley was closing her apartment door after a shift when her phone rang. Marcus. He never called unless something was wrong. "What happened?" she answered. "Your ex-husband was arrested 3 hours ago in Boston. Assault and battery. He put a woman in the hospital." Marcus's voice was grim. "The victim is his current girlfriend. She filed a restraining order. Police found evidence he'd been doing to her exactly what he did to you." Haley's knees went weak. She sank onto her couch. "Is she okay?" "She'll survive. Broken ribs, concussion, facial fractures." A pause. "The district attorney's office contacted me. They want to talk to you. Your prior reports could strengthen their case." Everything inside her recoiled. I can't go through that again. The lawyers, the testimony, having everything I said twisted. This time is different. They have hospital records, photos, a witness who called 911, and Mr. Ferraro has already connected them with his legal team. You won't be alone in this." Alessandro did what? "He made some calls. The DA now has access to resources they wouldn't normally have for a case like this. Expert witnesses, investigators. Everything needed to ensure Tyler goes to prison for a very long time." Marcus softened his tone. "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But this could be your chance to make sure he never hurts anyone again." After Marcus hung up, Haley sat in the dark, trembling. Part of her wanted to ignore it all, to let someone else fight that battle, to protect herself from having to relive her own nightmare in service of someone else's justice. But she kept seeing that woman in the hospital, broken ribs, concussion, the same pattern Tyler had used on her, escalating violence disguised as love until escape became impossible. Her phone buzzed. "Alessandro. Marcus told me about the arrest. I know this is difficult. If you need to talk, I'm available. If you need space, I understand. Either way, you're not alone." She stared at the message. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she called him. He answered on the first ring. "Haley, I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out. "I want to help her, but I'm terrified. What if his lawyers tear me apart again? What if they make me look like I'm lying? What if—" "Come to my office." "What?" Come to my office. We'll talk through this properly. I'll send a car. Alessandro, it's almost midnight. I'm still here. I'm always here. A pause. Please, you shouldn't be alone with this. 20 minutes later, Haley found herself in the back of a sleek black car, being driven through Manhattan's late-night streets toward Luminara. The restaurant was closed, lights dimmed, but she could see Alessandro's office windows glowing on the upper floor. The driver let her out at a side entrance. Marcus was waiting. He's upstairs, Marcus said quietly. Take your time. There's no rush. The stairwell felt different at night. Quieter. More intimate. Her footsteps echoed against marble as she climbed. Alessandro's office door stood open. He sat behind his desk, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, reading something on his laptop. He looked up as she entered and immediately closed the computer. Thank you for coming. Haley remained in the doorway. You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to. He gestured to the sitting area by the window, 2 leather chairs, a low table, more casual than the formal desk setup. Sit. Please, can I get you something? Water, coffee, something stronger? Water is fine. He poured from a carafe, handed her the glass, and settled into the chair across from her. Close enough for conversation, far enough to give her space. Tell me what you're afraid of, he said simply. Everything. Nothing. The truth that lived in her bones. I'm afraid of seeing him again, of being in the same room, of having to describe what he did while he sits there looking like the victim. Her hands shook, water sloshed in the glass. I'm afraid his lawyers will make me sound crazy, that they'll twist everything, that I'll have to relive the worst moments of my life for strangers who don't believe me. They'll believe you. Alessandro leaned forward slightly. Because this time, you won't be facing his lawyers alone. You'll have a team, experts, people who know how to counter every tactic his defense will try. You can't guarantee that. No. But I can guarantee you won't be abandoned, that you'll have support, that someone will be there fighting for you the way you deserved the first time. His dark eyes held hers. And I can guarantee that if you choose to testify, Tyler will see me sitting in that courtroom every single day, and he'll know that if he or his lawyers step out of line, there will be consequences. The promise in his voice sent chills down her spine. What kind of consequences? The legal kind. I have lawyers who specialize in witness intimidation cases. One wrong move from Tyler's team and will bury them in motions and sanctions. Alessandro's expression remained calm, but something dangerous flickered beneath. I don't play fair when it comes to protecting people I care about. People I care about? The words hung in the air between them. You barely know me, Haley whispered. I know enough. That's what you keep saying. But what does that mean? What do you see when you look at me? A charity case, a project, another broken woman to rescue? I see someone who survived. Alessandro set down his own glass with careful precision. I see someone who had every reason to give up and didn't, who rebuilt herself from nothing, who chose to keep going even when the world made it as hard as possible. He paused. I see strength you don't even recognize in yourself yet. Tears burned her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. The two aren't mutually exclusive. He stood, moved to the window, looked out at the city lights. After Juliana died, I spent months planning revenge. I wanted to destroy the man who killed her, ruin his life the way he'd ruined hers. I had the resources, the connections. I could have done it. Why didn't you? Because my sister wouldn't have wanted that. Alessandro's reflection in the glass looked haunted. She would have wanted me to help people like her, to use my resources to prevent other women from suffering the same fate. So that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do. Understanding crystallized. That's why you help me. I remind you of her. No. He turned to face her directly. You don't remind me of Juliana. You're nothing like her. She was gentle, trusting. She saw the best in everyone, even people who didn't deserve it. His expression softened. You're a fighter. You see the world clearly. You protect yourself because you've learned you can't rely on anyone else to do it. And that breaks my heart because you deserve better. The raw honesty in his voice shattered something inside her. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. How to accept help. How to trust that it won't be used against me later. how to let someone in without losing myself. Then don't. Alessandro crossed back to her but stopped just out of reach. Don't let me in. Don't trust me. Keep your walls exactly where they are. But let me help you anyway. Not because you owe me anything. Not because I expect anything in return, but because you deserve justice. That woman in the hospital deserves justice. And every woman Tyler might hurt in the future deserves to be protected from him. He was right. She knew he was right. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll testify. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise that when this is over, if I want to walk away from all of this, the apartment, the job, the protection, you'll let me go. No questions, no guilt. Just let me go. Something flashed across Alessandro's face. Pain, maybe, or resignation. I promise. The moment you want out, you're free. No conditions, no consequences. He extended his hand. Deal? She looked at his hand. Strong, steady, offering connection without demanding it. She shook it. Deal. His grip was warm, firm, and brief. Professional. But the moment their skin touched, electricity sparked between them. Undeniable and terrifying. Alessandro felt it too. She saw recognition flash in his eyes before he released her hand and stepped back, creating distance. I'll have my legal team contact you tomorrow. They'll walk you through everything, prepare you for questions, make sure you're ready. He moved toward his desk, putting furniture between them. And Haley, you're doing the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? Because courage always feels like fear in the moment. Alessandro's smile was sad. You only recognize it as bravery later, looking back. The car ride home felt longer than the journey there. Haley pressed her forehead against the cool window and tried to process everything that had just happened. She'd agreed to testify, to face Tyler again, to relive her nightmare in service of someone else's justice. But more than that, she'd seen something in Alessandro tonight, something raw and real beneath the controlled exterior. He wasn't just helping her out of obligation to his dead sister's memory. He was helping her because he cared. Actually, genuinely cared. And she was beginning to care back, which was the most dangerous development of all. The preparation for testimony consumed the next 2 weeks. Alessandro's legal team was everything he'd promised: professional, thorough, relentless. They met with Haley 3 times a week, walking her through potential questions, teaching her how to stay calm under cross-examination, reminding her that her truth was enough. The lead attorney was a woman named Catherine Wu, sharp, 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of presence that commanded courtrooms. She didn't coddle Haley. She pushed her, challenged her, prepared her for the worst the defense could throw. They'll try to paint you as unstable, Catherine said during one session. They'll point to your multiple moves, job changes, name change. They'll suggest you're running from consequences, not abuse. How do I counter that? With facts. You moved because he stalked you. You changed jobs because he sabotaged you. You changed your name because the legal system failed to protect you. Catherine's expression was fierce. And you remember that survivors' behavior looks chaotic to people who've never had to survive. Their ignorance isn't your burden. The sessions left Haley exhausted but stronger. Each time she practiced telling her story, it hurt a little less. Each time she faced Catherine's harsh cross-examination simulation, she flinched a little less. She was learning to own her truth instead of being buried by it. Alessandro checked in regularly but maintained careful distance. Brief texts asking how preparation was going. Offers of support if she needed anything. But he never pushed, never demanded her time or attention. The restraint should have been reassuring. Instead, it made her miss him. She found herself looking for him at events, disappointed when he wasn't there, reading his texts multiple times, searching for subtext, wondering what he did when he wasn't working, who he spent time with, whether he thought about her the way she was starting to think about him. It was foolish, dangerous, a distraction from the real battle ahead. But her heart didn't care about logic. The call came on a Thursday evening. Marcus, his voice tight with urgency. Tyler made bail. He's out. Haley's blood went cold. How? The charges? His family posted it, $2 million. And Haley, he violated the conditions within 6 hours. He tried to contact his girlfriend, called her hospital room, left a message saying she belonged to him. What happens now? Arrest warrant is already issued, but he's in the wind, disappeared. We're monitoring his known associates, his credit cards, everything. But I need you to be extra careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't deviate from your routine. If you see anything suspicious, I know, press the panic button. I'm serious, Haley. Tyler's desperate now. Desperate men are unpredictable. After Marcus hung up, Haley sat in her apartment staring at the panic button on her nightstand. Red, innocuous. A physical manifestation of danger waiting just outside her fortress walls. She should call Alessandro, tell him what was happening, let him activate whatever protective measures he had waiting. But part of her resented needing protection. Resented that even now, even with all the security and resources and legal teams, she still wasn't safe. Still had to live in fear because one man refused to let her go. Her phone rang. Alessandro. Marcus told me, are you okay? Define okay. Fair point. A pause. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I know, I'm coming anyway. Don't argue. He hung up before she could protest. 20 minutes later, her intercom buzzed. Haley checked the security camera. Alessandro, alone, carrying what looked like takeout bags. She let him up. He entered her apartment like he belonged there, setting bags on the kitchen counter with practiced efficiency. I brought dinner, Chinese. I'm guessing you haven't eaten. He was right. She hadn't even thought about food. You didn't have to do this. Stop saying that. Alessandro unpacked containers. Dumplings, lo mein, kung pao chicken. Enough for 3 people. You've had a shock. You need to eat, and you shouldn't be alone, so I'm here. Accept it. The authoritative tone should have irritated her. Instead, it was oddly comforting. Someone else making decisions, taking control, giving her permission to just exist for a moment without planning her next move. They ate in silence at first. Then Alessandro said, tell me what you're thinking. That I'm tired of being afraid. That I did everything right, left him, changed my name, moved across the country, rebuilt my life, and it still isn't enough. He still finds me. He still won't let go. She set down her chopsticks. I'm starting to think I'll never be free of him. You will be. I promise you. This ends. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Alessandro's voice carried absolute certainty. Because I won't stop until it does. Tyler Cross has hurt his last victim. Whether through the legal system or other means, he will not touch you again. Other means. The implication hung heavy. What does that mean? Haley asked carefully. Alessandro met her eyes. It means I have resources beyond lawyers and security teams. It means if the legal system fails you again, there are other ways to ensure someone can't hurt anyone else. I'm talking about protection, however it needs to manifest. He leaned back in his chair. I know what you think I am, Haley. I know the questions you're too polite to ask, so I'll answer them now. Yes, I have connections to people who operate outside the law. Yes, I've used those connections when necessary. And yes, if it came down to your safety or staying on the right side of legal boundaries, I would choose your safety without hesitation. The confession should have terrified her, should have confirmed every suspicion about the dangerous man who'd taken over her life. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in years. Why? She whispered. Why would you risk that for me? Alessandro stood, moved to the window, his silhouette dark against the city lights beyond. Because I care about you, more than I should, more than is probably wise given our circumstances. He turned to face her. And because I'm tired of watching good people suffer while predators walk free. If I have the power to stop it, I will. Consequences be damned. The raw honesty in his voice made her chest tight. Alessandro, I know this complicates things. I know you're not looking for this, for me. You're trying to rebuild your independence, and I'm offering you, what? More protection? More control disguised as safety? He ran a hand through his hair, the first uncontrolled gesture she'd seen from him. I'm not good at this. At feelings, at letting people in. But you've gotten past defenses I didn't even know I still had. Haley stood, crossed to him, stopped close enough to see the vulnerability in his dark eyes. I care about you too, she admitted. And it terrifies me. Because every time I've cared about someone, every time I've trusted someone, it's been used against me. Tyler started out as my protector too. Started out promising to keep me safe, and then, I'm not Tyler. Alessandro's voice went hard. I will never be Tyler. I will never use your trust as a weapon. I will never make you smaller to make myself feel bigger. And I will never, ever hurt you. You can't promise that. People always hurt each other. Then let me rephrase. I will never deliberately hurt you. And if I do hurt you accidentally, I'll spend however long it takes making it right. He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face with devastating gentleness. I see you, Haley Cross. Not the victim, not the survivor, not the project. I see you, the woman who fights, who endures, who chooses kindness even when the world doesn't deserve it, and I'm asking for the chance to prove I'm worthy of your trust. Her breath caught. No one had ever looked at her the way Alessandro was looking at her now, like she was something precious and powerful all at once. I'm not ready, she whispered. I know. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. That's okay too, but I don't want you to give up on me. Alessandro's thumb traced her cheekbone. Never. I'll wait however long it takes, and if that's forever, then so be it. Some things are worth waiting for. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch, allowing herself this moment of weakness, this moment of connection. Then her phone shattered the silence with Marcus's ringtone. They broke apart immediately. Alessandro stepped back while Haley answered. We found Tyler. Marcus's voice was tight. He's been spotted in Manhattan, near your old apartment building in Queens. Everything inside her went cold. He knows I'm not there anymore. Why would he? He's looking for you, working his way through your old neighborhood, asking questions. Security caught him on camera an hour ago, showing your photo to the bodega owner. How far is that from here? 20 minutes if he knows where to look. But Haley, there's no way he knows about your new place. We've been extremely careful, not careful enough. Alessandro took the phone from her hand. Marcus, I want full lockdown protocol. Now, all security personnel activated. No one enters this building without clearance, and I want eyes on every approach to this address. Already done. Building's locked down. Teams are in position. Good. I'm staying here tonight. Position someone in the hallway. I don't care how it looks. Understood. Alessandro handed back her phone. You're safe. He won't get near you. You don't have to stay. I have the panic button. Security, I'll be fine. I'm staying. His tone left no room for argument. If Tyler somehow finds this address, he'll have to go through me, and I promise you that won't end well for him. The protective fury in his voice should have made her uncomfortable, should have triggered all her warnings about men who thought they owned her safety. Instead, it made her feel seen, valued, worth protecting. They spent the night in careful proximity. Alessandro took the couch despite her protests. She retreated to her bedroom but couldn't sleep, knowing he was out there, standing guard between her and the monster hunting her. Around 3 a.m, she gave up and emerged to find Alessandro still awake, laptop open, working through what looked like security footage. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. No. She settled into the chair across from him. What are you watching? Tyler's movements over the past 6 hours. We've tracked him to 4 different locations, all places connected to your past. He's retracing your history, trying to find a thread that leads to your present. Will he? No, you've been very careful, and we've been more careful. Alessandro closed the laptop. But his pattern is escalating. He's getting desperate, which makes him dangerous. How long can he stay hidden? Not long. He's using cash, avoiding cameras, but he's also not a professional. He'll make a mistake, and when he does, we'll have him. Haley pulled her knees to her chest. I hate this. Hate that he still has this power over me, that I'm sitting here in a locked apartment with security teams and panic buttons because one man refuses to let me go. This isn't power. It's his last gasp. He's losing, Haley. The girlfriend's testimony is devastating. Your testimony will bury him. He knows it. This is desperation, not strength. It doesn't feel like he's losing. Alessandro moved to sit beside her, careful to maintain space, but close enough for comfort. When I lost Juliana, I felt powerless. Like the universe had proven I couldn't protect the people I loved. It took years to understand that her death wasn't about my power or lack thereof. It was about his evil. His choice, not my failure. How did you survive it? Barely, for a long time. He looked at her. But eventually I realized the best way to honor her memory was to make sure other women didn't suffer the same fate. It didn't bring her back, but it gave her death meaning, purpose. That's what you're doing for me, giving meaning to your loss. Maybe at first, but not anymore. His dark eyes held hers. Now I'm doing it because you matter. Not as a symbol or a project, but as someone I care about deeply and want to see thrive. The confession settled between them like a physical thing. Haley reached out, took his hand. He went very still. Thank you, she said quietly, for staying, for caring, for not giving up on me even when I make it difficult. You're worth the difficulty. They sat like that as the night slowly gave way to dawn, hands linked, silent, present. And for the first time since Tyler had appeared at Luminara, Haley felt something besides fear. She felt hope. That hope proved fragile. Dawn brought new intelligence. Marcus arrived at 7 with coffee and grim news, his expression tight as he entered Haley's apartment to find Alessandro still there, jacket discarded, looking like he'd spent the night standing watch, which he had. Tyler's movement stopped tracking at 4 this morning, Marcus said without preamble. Last known location was a hotel in Brooklyn. We had eyes on the entrance, but he slipped out through a service exit. He's gone dark. Alessandro's jaw tightened. How long? 3 hours. Could be anywhere in the city by now. Marcus pulled out his tablet, showed them a map dotted with red markers. These are locations we're monitoring, places connected to Haley's past, known associates, transportation hubs. But if he's gotten smart, if he's hired help, he hasn't. Haley spoke up from her position by the window. Tyler doesn't trust anyone enough to involve them. He'll work alone. He always does. Both men turned to look at her. What else? Alessandro asked. What patterns does he follow? She forced herself to think like Tyler, to remember how his mind worked, the calculations, the obsessions, the twisted logic that made sense only to him. He thinks in terms of ownership. I was his. That apartment in Queens was his territory. When he hunts, he starts where he last had control and works outward. She traced an invisible map in her mind. He'll go to the restaurant. He knows I work there. That's where he saw me last. Luminara's locked down, Marcus said. We've briefed all staff. No one enters without ID check. Security at every entrance. He won't try to enter. Haley shook her head. He'll watch. Wait, follow whoever looks like they might lead him to me. He's patient when he's hunting. Alessandro moved to his phone. I'm canceling all events for the next week. Staff gets paid leave. No one comes to work until Tyler's in custody. That's not necessary. It absolutely is. His tone left no room for argument. I won't risk anyone's safety. Not yours, not theirs. We lock everything down until this is finished. The declaration should have felt stifling. Instead, it felt like someone finally understanding the scale of the threat, taking it seriously, believing her when she said Tyler was dangerous. Marcus's phone buzzed. He stepped away to answer, his expression growing darker with each passing second. What? Alessandro demanded the moment Marcus hung up. Tyler's girlfriend died an hour ago. The hospital just confirmed. Internal bleeding they couldn't control. She never regained consciousness after the last surgery. The room went silent. Tyler hadn't just assaulted someone. He'd killed her. That changes the charges, Haley whispered. That's murder now. Second-degree murder minimum, possibly first if they can prove premeditation. Marcus met her eyes. And it makes Tyler exponentially more dangerous. He's got nothing to lose now. Life in prison is already on the table. He'll take risks he wouldn't have before. Alessandro's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned. It's Catherine, he answered on speaker. Yes? The DA wants to move up the timeline. Catherine's voice was crisp, businesslike. With the victim's death, they're fast-tracking everything. Grand jury convenes Monday. They want Haley's testimony Tuesday. That's 4 days from now. I know. But they're worried Tyler will flee the country or harm himself before we can get him in custody. They want to secure the indictment while the evidence is fresh and the media pressure is high. Haley felt the walls closing in. 4 days. Less than a week to prepare for the things she'd been dreading for months. Is she ready? Alessandro asked, looking at Haley even as he spoke to Catherine. As ready as she'll ever be, The question is whether she's willing. Everyone looked at Haley. She thought about the woman in the hospital, the one who'd died because Tyler refused to let go, the one who'd suffered the same violence Haley had endured, who'd fought the same battle and lost. She thought about every woman who might come after, every future victim Tyler would claim if he walked free. "I'll do it," she said. "Tuesday. I'll testify." The relief on Alessandro's face was palpable. "I'll be there. Front row. Every minute." "That's not necessary." "Yes, it is." His dark eyes held hers. "You're not doing this alone. Not for 1 second." The weekend passed in tense preparation. Catherine drilled Haley relentlessly. Questions, cross-examination, hostile scenarios. They practiced until Haley could recite her timeline without breaking down, could describe injuries without flinching, could face skepticism without crumbling. Alessandro remained close, but not overwhelming. He'd appear with food when she forgot to eat, send encouraging texts between sessions, remind her to rest when she pushed too hard. But he never pushed himself on her, never demanded her time or attention, just remained a steady presence in the background, ready when needed, absent when not. Sunday night, he took her to dinner. Not at Luminara, somewhere small, quiet. A French bistro in the West Village where the lighting was low and the tables were far enough apart for privacy. "You should be resting," Haley said as the waiter poured wine. "You've barely slept." "Neither have you." "I have an excuse. I'm testifying against my murderer ex-husband in 48 hours. Alessandro smiled despite the gravity. "Fair point, but I wanted to do something normal with you, something that isn't about fear or preparation or Tyler. Just this. Dinner. Conversation. Pretending the world is simpler than it is." She understood the impulse. The need to grasp at normalcy before everything exploded. They talked about nothing important, books they'd read, places they wanted to travel, childhood memories that didn't hurt too much to share. For 2 hours, Haley almost forgot about Tuesday, almost felt like a normal woman on a normal date with a man who saw her as more than a victim. "What happens after?" she asked over dessert. "After I testify, after Tyler's arrested, after the trial. What happens to us?" Alessandro set down his fork carefully. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to run, to take the fresh start you've given me and disappear into it. Build a life where none of this ever happened." "And the other part?" She met his eyes. "The other part wants to stay. To see if this thing between us is real or just trauma bonding. To find out who I am when I'm not running. Those aren't mutually exclusive. You can stay and still discover yourself. You can build a new life here." He paused. "With me. If you want." The offer hung between them, weighted with possibility. "I'm broken, Alessandro. I have nightmares, trust issues. I flinch at loud noises and can't sleep without checking the locks 3 times. I'm not—" "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." He reached across the table, covered her hand with his. "And I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for a chance. To see where this goes when we're not in crisis mode. To build something real instead of just surviving together." "What if I can't? What if I'm too damaged?" "Then we'll figure it out together. Or we won't, and we'll remain friends who care about each other deeply." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "But I'd rather try and fail than never know what we could have been." Haley looked at their joined hands. His grip was warm, steady, asking nothing but offering everything. "Okay," she whispered. "After Tuesday, after I testify. We'll try." Alessandro's smile was small but genuine. "I can work with that." The moment shattered when Alessandro's phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at it and his expression went cold. "What?" Haley demanded. "Tyler's been spotted, 2 blocks from here." Alessandro was already standing, throwing bills on the table. "Marcus is sending a car. We need to move. Now." They were in the back seat of Alessandro's car within minutes, Marcus driving with professional precision while speaking rapidly into his phone. Confirmed sighting at the corner of West 4th and Perry. Male, 6 foot, sandy blonde hair, wearing dark jacket and jeans. He was watching the restaurant entrance. "He followed us." Horror washed through Haley. "He knows I'm with you now." "Good." Alessandro's voice was hard. "Let him know. Let him understand that you're protected, that he can't get to you. You don't understand. This will make him worse, more desperate. He'll do nothing because he's being monitored by 4 different security teams and the NYPD has been alerted. If he makes one wrong move, he's in custody. But Tyler was smart, careful. He'd evaded police before. They arrived at Haley's building to find it surrounded by security. Marcus escorted them inside, up to her floor, checked the apartment thoroughly before leaving them. "I'm staying," Alessandro announced. Haley didn't argue. She didn't want to be alone, didn't want to face the fear without him. They settled into an uneasy silence. Alessandro worked on his laptop while Haley tried to read, but the words swam on the page. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow seemed to move. Around midnight, her phone rang. Unknown number. Alessandro's hand shot out. "Don't answer." But she recognized the area code. Boston, Tyler's home territory. She answered on speaker. "Hello, baby." Tyler's voice. Smooth, confident. Like they were old friends catching up instead of predator and prey. "How did you get this number?" Haley demanded. "I have my ways. Did you really think you could hide from me forever? Change your name, move across the country, find yourself a new protector?" He laughed. "I saw you tonight, with him, all cozy. Does he know what you really are? Does he know how crazy you can get?" Alessandro snatched the phone. "This is Alessandro Ferraro. You're going to hang up now, turn yourself into police, and pray I never get the chance to meet you in person." "The boyfriend? How sweet." Tyler's voice dripped mockery. "Tell me, Mr. Ferraro, do you know what happens to men who take what's mine? Ask Haley. She'll tell you all about the last guy who tried to help her. Oh wait, she probably didn't mention him. Didn't mention how he ended up with a broken jaw and restraining order for his trouble." "That was you." Haley's voice shook. "David tried to help me and you went after him. You told the police he attacked you. I protected what was mine. Just like I'm going to protect it now." Tyler's tone shifted, going cold. "You think your new boyfriend can save you? You think security cameras and bodyguards will stop me? I'm not some street thug, Haley. I'm patient. I'm smart. And I will get to you eventually. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday you'll let your guard down, and I'll be there." Alessandro's knuckles went white, gripping the phone. "You're not going to get the chance, because Tuesday, Haley testifies. The grand jury indicts you, and you spend the rest of your life in a cell where you can't hurt anyone." "Is that right?" Tyler laughed. "You think she'll actually show up? You think she's strong enough to face me? I know her. I know how she breaks. One look at me across that courtroom and she'll fall apart. She always does." "Not anymore." Alessandro's voice was absolute. "She's not your victim anymore, and you're about to learn what happens when you threaten someone under my protection." Tough words from a restaurant owner. "What are you going to do? Refuse to serve me?" "I'm going to destroy you, systematically, completely, and then I'm going to make sure you're forgotten like the pathetic predator you are." Alessandro ended the call. Silence descended, heavy and terrible. "He's right about one thing," Haley whispered. "I don't know if I can face him. Hearing his voice just now, I froze. I couldn't breathe. How am I supposed to sit in a courtroom and, hey?" Alessandro cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You froze for 5 seconds. Then you called him out, reminded him of what he did to David. You didn't crumble. You fought back. That was on the phone, in person. In person, you'll have me right there, Catherine, the entire prosecution team. You won't be alone. And Tyler will be the one in handcuffs, not you. He'll be the one under scrutiny. He's trying to scare you because fear is the only weapon he has left." "It's working." Alessandro pulled her into his arms. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, shaking. "I know," he murmured into her hair. "I know you're scared. But you're also the bravest person I've ever met. You survived years with him. You escaped. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. You're standing here ready to testify, despite every instinct screaming to run. That's not weakness. That's extraordinary courage." "I don't feel courageous." "You don't have to feel it to be it." He pulled back enough to look at her. "Courage is being terrified and doing it anyway, and that's exactly what you're going to do Tuesday." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that she was strong enough for what was coming. But Tyler's voice echoed in her head. The casual confidence, the absolute certainty that he would win because he always won. Monday morning arrived with new complications. Catherine called at 8. Tyler's lawyers are fighting the indictment timeline, claiming insufficient preparation time. The judge is considering a delay. How long? Alessandro demanded. Could be weeks, maybe a month. Absolutely not. Tyler's murdered someone. He's a flight risk and a danger to the public. The delay is a stalling tactic. I know. We're arguing that in court this afternoon, but there's a chance the judge grants it anyway. After Catherine hung up, Haley felt something inside her shift. A month of this terror. A month of looking over her shoulder, waiting for Tyler to strike. She couldn't do it. I need to go out, she said suddenly. Alessandro looked up from his laptop. Where? Anywhere. I can't stay locked in this apartment waiting for permission to reclaim my life. I need air, space, something normal. That's not safe. I don't care. The words burst out fiercer than she intended. Tyler wins if I hide. He wins if I let fear control every decision. I need to prove to myself I'm not his prisoner anymore. Alessandro studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. But we do it smart. Marcus arranges security. We choose a public place. And you stay close to me. Deal. They ended up at Central Park. Late morning, weekday, the paths filled with joggers and tourists and people living their ordinary lives. Marcus and his team maintained discreet distance while Haley and Alessandro walked through fallen leaves surrounded by the city's heartbeat. Tell me something about your life before all this, Alessandro said. Before Tyler. Who was Haley Cross before she learned to survive? The question caught her off guard. She'd spent so long being the victim, the survivor, the woman running from her past that she'd almost forgotten there was a before. I wanted to be a nurse. Pediatric oncology. I volunteered at children's hospitals during college. I loved making sick kids smile, even for just a moment. The memory felt like it belonged to someone else. I was good at it. The other volunteers used to say I had a gift. What stopped you? Tyler. He said healthcare was too demanding, too stressful, that I should find something easier, less time-consuming, so I could focus on our marriage. She laughed bitterly. What he meant was something that gave him more control. So I became a waitress, flexible schedule, easy to monitor, no real career advancement that might make me independent. You could go back to it. After this is over, finish your degree, become the nurse you wanted to be. I'm 26. I'd be starting over from scratch. So? I didn't open my first restaurant until I was 32. Life doesn't follow a timeline. You start when you're ready. The possibility bloomed in her chest. A future that wasn't just survival, a purpose beyond running. Maybe, she said softly, maybe I could. They walked in comfortable silence until Marcus's voice crackled through Alessandro's earpiece. We have movement. 2 o'clock. Male matching Tyler's description. Keeping distance but definitely tracking you. Alessandro's arm went around Haley's waist. Protective. Possessive. How far? 50 yards. He's got a phone out, taking photos. Let him. Alessandro pulled Haley closer. Let him see exactly who she's with now. Let him understand he's outmatched. But Haley felt Tyler's eyes on her like a physical weight. The predator watching his prey, calculating, planning. I want to see him, she said suddenly. What? No. I need to see him. Need to prove to myself he's just a man. Not a monster. Not inevitable. Just a pathetic man who uses violence because he has nothing else. Alessandro hesitated, then spoke into his earpiece. Marcus, can you position us for visual? Not advisable. Can you do it safely? A pause. Yes. Turn left at the next fork. There's a clearing. We can position you so she sees him, but he can't approach. They followed Marcus's directions, and there, across a wide lawn, partially hidden behind a tree, stood Tyler. He looked smaller than Haley remembered, less imposing. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt. He'd always been meticulous about appearance. The dishevelment suggested desperation. Their eyes met across the distance. Tyler smiled. That same cruel smile that used to make her blood run cold. But this time, standing in Alessandro's protective embrace, surrounded by security she trusted, Haley felt something different. Anger. Pure, cleansing anger. This man had stolen years of her life. Had beaten her, terrorized her, made her afraid of her own shadow. had killed another woman rather than let go of his twisted need for control. And now he stood there smiling like he'd already won. She stepped away from Alessandro, stood on her own, looked Tyler dead in the eye, and mouthed 2 words. Not anymore. Tyler's smile faltered. Then Marcus and his team materialized from multiple angles, boxing Tyler in with professional precision. Tyler Cross, you're in violation of bail conditions. Get on the ground, now. For a moment, Tyler looked like he might run. Then he saw the futility. Security from every direction, police sirens already wailing in the distance. He dropped to his knees, hands raised, but his eyes never left Haley. This isn't over, he called across the lawn. Yes, Haley called back, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. It is. Police arrived within minutes. Tyler was cuffed, searched, loaded into a patrol car, while he shouted threats that dissolved into the city noise. Alessandro pulled Haley against him as they watched the car drive away. You okay? I don't know. She was shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the realization that she'd faced her nightmare in daylight and survived. Ask me again tomorrow. Tomorrow you testify. Tomorrow I end this. The grand jury hearing took place in a federal building in downtown Manhattan, surrounded by enough security to guard a head of state. Catherine met them at the entrance, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. You ready? Haley nodded, not trusting her voice. Remember what we practiced. Answer truthfully. Don't embellish. If you need a break, take one. And keep your eyes on me, not him. He won't be in the room, right? Grand jury doesn't include the defendant. Correct. Just you, me, the prosecutor, and 23 jurors. No defense attorney, no cross-examination, just your story. Catherine squeezed her arm. You've got this. Alessandro walked her to the courtroom door. He couldn't enter. Witnesses waited separately. But he caught her hand before she went in. Whatever happens in there, I'm right outside. And when you're done, we're done with Tyler Cross. For good. She kissed his cheek, quick, impulsive, a gesture of gratitude and something deeper. Then she walked into the courtroom alone. The grand jury room was smaller than expected. 23 people sat in tiered rows, faces ranging from curious to somber. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s named Rebecca Santos, gestured to the witness stand. Ms. Cross, thank you for being here. I know this is difficult. Haley sat, hands folded to hide the shaking, took the oath, prepared to speak her truth. For the next 90 minutes, she walked them through everything. Meeting Tyler. The courtship that felt like a fairy tale. The first time he hit her, disguised as an accident, followed by tearful apologies. The escalation, the control, the isolation. She described injuries in clinical detail, showed scars, presented hospital records, documented every time she'd sought help and been turned away. And she told them about the last time. The beating that put her in the hospital, the moment she realized staying meant dying. Some jurors cried. Others looked sick. All of them looked convinced. When she finished, Rebecca asked one final question. Ms. Cross, why are you willing to testify now? What changed? Haley looked at the jurors, thought about the woman who'd died, about future victims, about the Haley who'd wanted to be a pediatric oncology nurse before Tyler stole that dream. Because I'm tired of being afraid. Because another woman is dead and I could have been her. Because men like Tyler Cross don't stop unless someone stops them. She took a breath. And because I finally have people who believe me, who support me, who gave me the strength to stand here and say what he did was wrong, and he needs to pay for it. The room was silent. Then the jury foreman spoke. Thank you, Ms. Cross. That took tremendous courage. Rebecca stood. The people rest. We ask that the grand jury return an indictment for second-degree murder, multiple counts of assault, stalking, and harassment. Haley was escorted out. The deliberation would take hours, maybe days. But she'd done it. She'd faced the fear, told her truth, reclaimed her voice. Alessandro was waiting exactly where he'd promised. He took one look at her face and pulled her into his arms. How do you feel? Free. The word came out on a sob. For the first time in years, I feel free. He held her while she cried. Relief. Exhaustion. the release of carrying that weight alone for so long. When she finally pulled away, Catherine emerged with news. They're back already. That's fast. Usually means a strong consensus. They waited in the hallway. Minutes felt like hours. Then the door opened. Rebecca emerged, her expression triumphant. True bill on all counts. Tyler Cross has been indicted. He'll be arraigned tomorrow, and given the murder charge, bail will almost certainly be denied. She looked at Haley. It's over. He's going to prison for a very, very long time. The words took a moment to sink in. Over. Actually, over. Haley felt her knees give out. Alessandro caught her, held her upright. I've got you, he murmured. I've got you. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. The relief lasted exactly 12 hours. Haley spent that evening in a haze of exhausted triumph. Alessandro took her to dinner. Not somewhere fancy, just a quiet Italian place in his neighborhood, where the owner greeted him by name and didn't ask questions when Haley couldn't stop the tears that kept sneaking up on her between courses. It's normal, Alessandro said, reaching across the table to take her hand. You've been holding yourself together for so long. Now that the immediate threat is contained, your body is finally processing everything you've been through. I feel like I should be celebrating. Instead, I just feel empty. Give it time. Healing isn't linear. His thumb traced circles on her palm. The arraignment is tomorrow. After that, we can start thinking about what comes next. For you, for us. The word us sent a flutter through her chest, terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. But when she returned to her apartment that night, exhaustion pulled her under before she could overthink it. She fell asleep almost immediately, Alessandro's goodnight text still glowing on her phone screen. The call came at 3 a.m. Haley jerked awake to her phone, vibrating insistently. Catherine's name on the screen. Hello? Her voice came out thick with sleep. Haley, I need you to stay calm. Catherine's tone was wrong, too controlled, the kind of calm that preceded disaster. Tyler escaped custody 2 hours ago during a medical transport. The words didn't make sense. Haley's brain struggled to process them through the fog of sleep and confusion. What do you mean escaped? He was in a holding cell. How does someone... He complained of chest pains. Protocol required they transport him to a hospital for evaluation. During the transfer, the transport van was ambushed. 3 masked men. They killed 1 guard, injured 2 others, and took Tyler. Catherine paused. The FBI is now involved. This was planned, professional. Someone with resources helped him. Haley's hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from her grip. Where is he now? Unknown. But Haley, you need to assume he's coming for you. He's got nothing left to lose. Murder charges, escape, assaulting federal officers. He's looking at life without parole minimum. If he's decided to go down, he might want to take you with him. The apartment suddenly felt like a trap. Walls closing in. No escape. I'm sending Marcus to you now, Catherine continued. Don't open the door for anyone else. Don't go near the windows. Alessandro's been notified. He's on his way. After Catherine hung up, Haley sat frozen in the darkness. This couldn't be happening. Tyler was supposed to be locked up. The nightmare was supposed to be over. Her phone rang again. Alessandro. Are you okay? His voice was tight with barely controlled fury. No, I'm not. How did this happen? How does someone just escape? Because Tyler has money, family connections, and apparently no moral boundaries left. She heard movement on his end, doors closing, an engine starting. I'm 10 minutes away. Marcus is already in your building. You're not alone. Alessandro, if he's coming for me, then he goes through me first. And I promise you, that won't end well for him. The dangerous edge in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it was oddly comforting. Someone willing to stand between her and the monster. Someone who wouldn't back down. A knock at her door made her jump. Someone's here. That's Marcus. Check the camera. She did. Marcus stood in the hallway looking grim but reassuring in his professionalism. Haley let him in. He immediately began checking the apartment. Windows, locks, sightlines, while speaking into his radio in terse, efficient commands. We're locked down, he told her. 4-person team on rotation. No one gets past the lobby without biometric clearance. You're safe here. That's what you said before, and Tyler still escaped. Tyler escaped federal custody, not our protection. There's a difference. Marcus met her eyes. But I understand your fear. So here's what's going to happen. Mister, Ferraro is arranging alternate accommodations. Somewhere Tyler doesn't know about. Somewhere we can control completely. We'll move you within the hour. Alessandro arrived 17 minutes later, looking like he'd dressed in the dark, which he probably had. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled, hair uncombed, shirt partially untucked. But his eyes were sharp, focused entirely on Haley. Pack essentials, he said without preamble. 5 minutes. We're leaving. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. He pulled out his phone, showed her photos of a modern penthouse. I own a building in Tribeca. The top 2 floors are mine. Private elevator, rooftop access only, security system that would make the Pentagon jealous. You'll stay there. With me. Until Tyler is back in custody. The implications hung heavy. Living with Alessandro. In his private space. Blurring every boundary they'd carefully maintained. Alessandro, I don't think... I'm not asking permission. His tone brooked no argument. Tyler's targeted you specifically. He knows where you work, where you live, who you're connected to. My penthouse is the one place he can't possibly know about because I've never brought anyone there. Ever. You'll be safe. What about you? I'll be fine. I can handle Tyler Cross. That's not what I mean. What if he comes after you to get to me? What if... Alessandro cupped her face in both hands, forcing her to look at him. Then I'll deal with it, but you need to trust me right now. Can you do that? The vulnerability in his eyes, the fear he was trying to hide beneath the controlled exterior, made her decision. Okay, I trust you. Relief flickered across his face. Good. Now pack. Fast. The penthouse was everything he'd promised and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, sleek modern furniture, art that probably cost more than most people's houses. But underneath the luxury was security, reinforced walls, bulletproof glass, multiple escape routes, a fortress disguised as a home. Guest room is down the hall, Alessandro said, setting down her bag. Or you can take the master, whatever makes you comfortable. Where will you sleep? Wherever you're not. I meant what I said, Haley. You're safe here, from Tyler, from me, from everything. The exhaustion finally caught up with her, the adrenaline crash leaving her hollow and shaking. I don't want to be alone right now. Alessandro went very still. What do you need? Just stay with me, not... She fumbled for words. Not anything romantic. I just need to know someone else is here, that I'm not facing this by myself. Of course. He gestured toward the living room. Come on, we'll camp out here. More defensible position anyway. He built a nest of blankets and pillows on the sectional sofa while Haley made tea in his state-of-the-art kitchen. They settled in like refugees from their own lives, the city glittering beyond the windows while danger hunted in the darkness below. Tell me something good, Haley said. Something that has nothing to do with Tyler or fear or running. Tell me about something you love. Alessandro thought for a moment. Music. Opera, specifically. I know it's old-fashioned, but my mother used to play Puccini when I was a child. After she died, listening to it was the only thing that made me feel close to her. Do you still listen? Every Sunday morning. It's my ritual. He smiled slightly. Sophia thinks I'm ridiculous, says opera is for old men and pretentious art students. I've never heard opera. Real opera, I mean. Just snippets in movies. Then we'll fix that. After this is over. I'll take you to the Met. Get a private box. Let you experience it properly. The casual promise of a future together sent warmth through her chest. I'd like that. They talked through the night, about everything and nothing. Childhoods and dreams and the lives they'd lived before trauma rewrote their stories. Alessandro told her about opening his first restaurant with money he'd saved for years, the terror and triumph of that first successful night. Haley told him about the children's hospital where she'd volunteered, the way sick kids could find joy in the smallest things. Somewhere around dawn, she fell asleep against his shoulder. Alessandro didn't move, just kept watch while she finally rested, his arm around her, solid and safe. When she woke hours later, sunlight streaming through the windows, Alessandro was still there, awake, alert, protecting her even in sleep. You didn't rest at all, she murmured. I'll rest when you're safe. He brushed hair from her face with unexpected tenderness. Coffee? The next 3 days passed in strange suspension. The FBI launched a manhunt for Tyler. His face appeared on every news channel. Tips poured in from across the country, but none of them panned out. Tyler had vanished. Alessandro's penthouse became their entire world. Haley couldn't leave. Too dangerous. Work was suspended. Life reduced to the space between reinforced walls. But it wasn't the prison she'd expected. Alessandro worked from home, video conferences with restaurant staff and suppliers, while Haley explored his extensive library. They cooked together in the evenings. Alessandro surprisingly competent in the kitchen, despite having professional chefs at his disposal. They watched movies, played chess, discovered they were both terrible at cards but competitive enough to argue over the rules anyway. And slowly, without the immediate terror to focus on, they learned each other. The way Alessandro took his coffee, black, no sugar, too hot to drink for 10 minutes. How he had to tell when he was worried, rubbing his thumb against his forefinger in absent circles. The scar on his left hand from a kitchen accident when he was 19. He learned her too, that she organized everything alphabetically when stressed, that she hummed without realizing it when she was content, that she still checked locks 3 times before bed, but was slowly, gradually starting to relax. On the 4th night, Catherine called with an update. Tyler's been spotted in Philadelphia. FBI has a team moving in. It's credible. Security footage, witness statements, the whole package. Hope bloomed in Haley's chest. So this could be over? Actually over? Maybe. Don't celebrate yet. But it's the best lead we've had. After Catherine hung up, Haley found Alessandro on the terrace, looking out at the city. The night air was cold, but he didn't seem to notice. They might have him, she said, joining him at the railing. I heard. That's good news. You don't sound happy. I'm cautious. Tyler's escaped once. I won't believe it's over until he's locked in a maximum security cell with no possibility of getting out. Alessandro turned to look at her. And even then, I'll spend years looking over my shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's not living. That's surviving. Sometimes survival is enough. No. Haley moved closer, emboldened by the darkness and the possibility that this nightmare might actually end. You taught me that. You gave me the chance to do more than survive, to build something real, to hope again. Don't you deserve the same thing? Alessandro's expression was unreadable. What are you saying? I'm saying when this is over, really over, I don't want to go back to my apartment and pretend the last few weeks didn't happen. I don't want to maintain professional distance and carefully constructed boundaries. She took a breath. I want to try, actually try, to see what we could be when we're not in crisis mode. Haley, I know it's fast. I know it's probably a terrible idea given everything we've been through. But I also know I feel safer with you than I've ever felt with anyone, and that has to mean something. Alessandro closed the distance between them, cupped her face with both hands like she was something precious and fragile. It means everything. But I need you to be sure, because once we cross this line, I won't be able to go back. I won't be able to pretend I don't care about you more than I should. I'm sure. He kissed her, soft at first, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. She leaned into him, hands fisting in his shirt, kissing him back with all the pent-up emotion and fear and hope she'd been carrying. It was messy and desperate and absolutely perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alessandro pressed his forehead to hers. When this is over, he said quietly, I'm going to court you properly. Dates, romance, the whole thing. You deserve that. Not this, hiding and fear and survival. I like this. Us. However it comes. You deserve better. I deserve you. And you deserve someone who sees past the control and the protection to the man underneath. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. The man who plays opera on Sunday mornings and builds pillow forts and stays awake all night to keep watch over someone he cares about. Alessandro's smile was small but genuine. How did I get so lucky? You decided to protect a waitress who dropped a menu. Best decision I ever made. They stood together on the terrace, New York glittering around them, and for the first time in days, Haley let herself believe this might actually work. The call came at 2 in the morning. Haley jerked awake to Alessandro's phone ringing insistently. She'd fallen asleep in his bed, not doing anything, just talking until exhaustion claimed them both. And now his arm tightened around her protectively as he answered. "What?" His voice was sharp, alert despite the hour. She couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Alessandro's expression shift from alert to grim. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. "I'm on my way." "No, she stays here. Full lockdown. No one in or out without my explicit approval." He hung up, already moving, pulling on clothes with efficient speed. "What happened?" Haley demanded. "Tyler's not in Philadelphia. That was a diversion. While the FBI was chasing shadows, he came back to New York." Alessandro's expression was carved from stone. "He hit Luminara an hour ago, set fire to the first floor. The sprinkler system contained it, but there's significant damage. And he left a message." "What message?" Alessandro handed her his phone. A text from Marcus. A photo of graffiti spray-painted across Luminara's front windows. "She's mine. Always will be." Haley's blood ran cold. He's escalating. He's desperate. But this is good. Good? He just torched your restaurant. He exposed his location. He's in New York, in our territory, and he made a mistake. Alessandro's smile was dangerous. He went after my property instead of disappearing. That tells me he's not thinking clearly. Desperate men make mistakes. "Where are you going?" "To the restaurant. To coordinate with the police and FBI. To make sure he didn't leave any other surprises." Alessandro cupped her face. "You stay here. Marcus is already in the elevator. No one gets past him. I'll be back before dawn." "Alessandro, what if he's waiting for you? What if this is a trap to draw you out?" "Then he'll learn what happens when you threaten what's mine." He kissed her forehead. "I'll be fine. I promise." But promises meant nothing against desperate men with nothing to lose. Alessandro left. Marcus arrived. The penthouse became a locked box with Haley trapped inside, pacing like a caged animal. She tried to sleep. Failed. Tried to read. Couldn't focus. The minutes crawled by with excruciating slowness. At 4:30, her phone rang. "Alessandro." "Are you okay?" She answered immediately. "Fine. The damage is containable. Insurance will cover it. But Haley, we found something." His voice was tight. "Tyler left blueprints. Of this building. Of my penthouse." The world tilted. "How would he get—" "I don't know, but he knows you're here, which means we need to move you. Now." "Where? If he knows about the penthouse, if he's got building plans?" "We go completely off-grid. I have a place upstate. Remote. Secure. No one knows about it except me and Marcus. We leave within the hour." "Alessandro, maybe I should just—" "No, don't even suggest it. You're not bait. You're not facing him alone. We handle this together." The determination in his voice left no room for argument. 30 minutes later, Haley was in the back of an armored SUV, Marcus driving, Alessandro beside her, heading north out of the city. Dawn broke over the Hudson River as they left Manhattan behind. The safe house was a converted barn in the Catskills, surrounded by woods, no neighbors for miles, the kind of isolated beautiful that could be either sanctuary or trap, depending on who was coming. "I bought this place 10 years ago," Alessandro explained as they pulled up. "After Juliana died. I needed somewhere to think, to grieve. No one else has ever been here." The interior was sparse but comfortable. Open floor plan. Large windows overlooking a frozen pond. A fireplace that looked like it actually worked. Marcus did a security sweep while Alessandro built a fire. Haley stood at the window, watching the sun climb over the trees, and tried to process how quickly her life had spun out of control again. "We're safe here," Alessandro said, coming to stand beside her. "Tyler can't know about this place. There's no paper trail connecting me to it. The deed is under a shell corporation. We have time to breathe, to plan. Or we have time for him to keep destroying everything you've built while I hide." Haley turned to face him. "He burned your restaurant. He's targeting the life you've created. How long before he goes after your other properties? Your staff? People you care about? Let him try. Buildings can be rebuilt. People can be protected. But you, Alessandro's hand came up to cup her cheek. You I can't replace. You are the priority. Everything else is negotiable. The declaration should have been romantic. Instead, it filled her with guilt. This isn't sustainable. We can't keep running, can't keep hiding. Tyler will keep escalating until what? Until he makes a mistake big enough that we can stop him permanently. Alessandro's eyes were hard. That's exactly what we're waiting for. He's unraveling. The arson was sloppy. He left evidence, DNA fingerprints. The FBI has him on camera. Every move he makes tightens the noose. And what if he decides the only way to win is to ensure I lose? What if he... She didn't get to finish the thought, because that's when the windows exploded inward. Glass shattered in a deadly rain. Alessandro threw himself over Haley, taking them both to the ground as bullets tore through the space where they'd been standing. Marcus returned fire from behind the kitchen island, his weapon appearing with practiced speed. East side, 2 shooters. More gunfire, the methodical sound of someone who knew what they were doing. Alessandro dragged Haley toward the back of the house, shielding her with his body. Stay low. Move. They reached the hallway as the front door exploded open. Tyler stood silhouetted against the morning light, gun in hand, face twisted with rage. Did you really think you could hide from me? He shouted. I own you, Haley. You're mine. And if I can't have you, no one can. He raised the gun. Alessandro shoved Haley behind him, positioning himself between her and Tyler. You want her? You go through me first. Tyler laughed, wild, unhinged. Gladly. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Alessandro staggered. Red bloomed across his white shirt, but he didn't fall, didn't move. Is that all you've got? Alessandro's voice was steady, despite the blood. I've survived worse than you. He pulled his own weapon. Haley hadn't even known he was armed, and fired. Tyler dove for cover. More gunfire erupted. Marcus appeared from the kitchen, flanking. Tyler's accomplices burst through the back door. It was chaos, bullets and breaking furniture and shouted commands. Haley pressed herself against the wall, trapped in her worst nightmare made real. Then she saw it. Tyler's gun. Dropped when he dodged Alessandro's shot, lying 3 feet from where she crouched. Every instinct screamed to stay hidden, to let the men with training handle this. But Tyler was reloading, and Alessandro was bleeding, and Marcus was pinned down by one of the accomplices. Haley grabbed the gun. She'd never held one before. It was heavier than expected, cold, foreign in her hands. Haley, no! Alessandro saw what she was doing. Get back! But Tyler had spotted her too. His eyes went wide, then calculating. There she is. My beautiful wife. Come to end this yourself? He took a step toward her, his own weapon rising. You don't have it in you. You're weak. You always were. You won't. She pulled the trigger. The recoil nearly threw her backward. The sound was impossibly loud, but the bullet found its mark. Tyler's shoulder, spinning him around, his gun clattering to the floor. He looked at her in shock. You shot me! I'm not your wife. I'm not your property, and I'm not weak. Haley's hands shook, but her voice was steady. I'm done being afraid of you. Tyler lunged for his fallen weapon. Alessandro was faster. He closed the distance in 2 strides and put Tyler down with a single shot. Center mass. Professional. Final. Tyler collapsed. Blood pooling beneath him. His eyes found Haley one last time. Mine, he whispered. Never, she said. Then his eyes went empty, fixed on nothing. The monster was dead. The aftermath was chaos. Police, FBI, paramedics. Alessandro was rushed to the hospital with a through-and-through shoulder wound. Tyler's 2 accomplices were arrested. Hired muscle who'd been promised money they'd never collect. Haley gave her statement 3 times. To local police, to FBI, to the district attorney who'd prosecute the accomplices. Each time she told the same truth. Tyler had found them, had tried to kill them, had forced her to defend herself and the man she loved. The man she loved. The words felt right. Terrifying, but right. Alessandro was kept overnight for observation. Haley refused to leave his side. She sat in the uncomfortable hospital chair, holding his hand, watching him sleep off the anesthesia. When he finally woke, his first words were, You shot him. I did. I told you to stay back. I don't take orders well. You should know that by now. Alessandro smiled, winced. Remind me never to make you angry. Too late. You got shot protecting me. I'm furious with you. Worth it. He squeezed her hand. Is he dead? Yes. The coroner confirmed it. Tyler Cross is gone. For real this time. Relief washed over Alessandro's face. Good. How do you feel? Haley thought about it. Really thought about it. Free. Guilty that I feel free. Sad that it had to end this way, but mostly just free. The guilt will fade. You did what you had to do to survive. That's not a crime. That's courage. I killed someone. You saved yourself. And me. And anyone else Tyler might have hurt in the future. Alessandro's grip tightened. Don't carry that weight. Let it go. She wanted to, desperately. But the image of Tyler falling kept replaying in her mind. The healing took longer than the wounds. Physically, Alessandro recovered within weeks. The bullet had missed anything vital, clean through and through. He'd have a scar and some stiffness, but full mobility eventually. Emotionally, Haley struggled. She'd killed someone. Justified or not, that reality lived in her bones now, changed her, marked her. Alessandro got her a therapist, someone who specialized in trauma and self-defense situations, someone who understood the complicated grief of mourning an abuser's death while being relieved by it. Slowly, painfully, Haley began to process it all. 3 months after Tyler's death, the legal situation finally resolved. The district attorney declined to press charges. Clear self-defense, credible threat, no alternative. Tyler's family tried to contest it, tried to paint Haley as the aggressor, but the evidence was overwhelming. The FBI's investigation into Tyler's escape revealed his family had helped fund it. They were too busy dealing with their own legal troubles to sustain a fight. The civil suits were settled. Tyler's estate paid damages to his murdered girlfriend's family, to Haley for years of abuse. The money felt like blood money, but Catherine convinced her to take it. Use it to build something good, Catherine said. Fund a shelter. Start a foundation. Help other women escape. Make his evil serve a purpose. That's exactly what Haley did. 6 months after Tyler's death, Haley stood in front of a newly renovated brownstone in Brooklyn. A sign above the door read Juliana's house, safe harbor for survivors. Alessandro stood beside her, his hand in hers. Your sister would love this, Haley said. She would have loved you. Alessandro pulled her close. Thank you for remembering her this way, for making her death mean something. Thank you for teaching me I deserved better, for showing me what real protection looks like. They'd been together officially for 4 months now, actually dating, dinners and museums and that opera at the Met he'd promised, learning each other outside of crisis and fear. It wasn't perfect. Haley still had nightmares, still flinched at sudden noises, still checked locks obsessively. But Alessandro never complained, never pressured, just remained steady, present, patient. He taught her that love didn't have to hurt, that care didn't require control, that two broken people could build something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. She'd returned to school, started the nursing program she'd abandoned years ago. It was hard, balancing classes and the foundation and building a relationship, but it was the good kind of hard, the kind that came from choosing something instead of surviving it. Alessandro had rebuilt Luminara, stronger than before, better security, and he'd promoted Sophia to partner, started training programs for other survivors who needed job skills and safe employment. They both understood now that surviving trauma wasn't about forgetting it. It was about transforming it, using the pain to create something meaningful. On the 1-year anniversary of Tyler's death, Haley woke in Alessandro's penthouse, her home now too, and found him already awake, watching her with that soft expression he got when he thought she wasn't looking. "Good morning," she murmured. "Good morning." He brushed hair from her face. "How do you feel?" She took inventory. The familiar weight of grief, but underneath it, something new, something like peace. "Okay. I feel okay. Just okay? Okay is good. Okay is progress. A year ago, I didn't think I'd survive the week. Now I'm okay. That's worth celebrating. Alessandro smiled, pulled her closer. Then let's celebrate. They spent the day doing ordinary things: breakfast at the diner down the street, a walk through Central Park, meeting Sophia for lunch. Nothing dramatic, nothing traumatic, just living. That evening, Alessandro took her to the restaurant. But instead of going inside, he led her to the rooftop terrace, the one that had been rebuilt after the fire, now transformed into a garden space. String lights hung overhead, candles flickered on small tables, and in the center, a small orchestra was setting up. "What is this?" Haley asked. "A promise fulfilled." Alessandro gestured to the musicians. "Opera under the stars. Private performance, just for you." The music began. Puccini, she'd learned to recognize. The soprano's voice soared into the night sky, telling a story of love and sacrifice and redemption. Haley leaned against Alessandro, his arms around her, and let the music wash over them both. "I love you," she said quietly. The first time she'd said it out loud. Alessandro went very still. Then he turned her to face him, his dark eyes shining with emotion. "I love you too. Have loved you since the moment you tried to be invisible, and I decided you were the most visible person in the room." He kissed her. Soft, sweet, full of promise. When they broke apart, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. Haley's heart stopped. "Alessandro, it's not what you think. I'm not proposing. Not yet. You've been married before and that ended terribly. I want to give you time to trust that this is different, that I'm different." He opened the box. Inside was a key. "But I'm asking you to make this official. Move in with me completely. Not because you need protection, not because you're running from something, but because you choose to, because you want to build a life with me." Haley took the key, felt its weight, its promise. "I already did choose," she said. "Months ago. I just didn't tell you yet." Alessandro's smile was brilliant. "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes to moving in and to building a life, to all of it." He kissed her again. And on a rooftop in Manhattan, surrounded by music and candlelight and the ghosts of who they used to be, Haley Cross finally understood what freedom felt like. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of choice. Not running from something, but running toward something better. She'd survived, escaped, rebuilt. And now, finally, she was thriving. 2 years later, Haley stood in a different rooftop space. This one at the hospital where she had just completed her first shift as a pediatric oncology nurse. Alessandro was waiting by the elevator, bouquet in hand, looking unfairly good in a suit despite the late hour. "How was it?" he asked. "Exhausting, heartbreaking, perfect." She took the flowers. "One of my patients, a little girl named Emma, told me I was her favorite nurse. On my first day." "Of course you are. You're everyone's favorite." They rode the elevator down together. Alessandro's hand in hers, a simple touch that still sent warmth through her chest. In the lobby, she caught sight of a poster, Juliana's House annual fundraiser, supporting survivors. The shelter had grown, expanded to 3 locations, helped over 200 women in 2 years. It had become her purpose. Her way of ensuring Tyler's evil died with him, while the good he'd inadvertently created, bringing her and Alessandro together, lived on. "Ready to go home?" Alessandro asked. Home. Not his place, not her apartment. Home. The penthouse they shared, the life they'd built. "Yes, absolutely." As they walked out into the cool evening air, Haley realized she'd stopped looking over her shoulder months ago, stopped checking for threats, stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. She was safe. Actually, genuinely safe. Not because of security systems or bodyguards or panic buttons, though Alessandro still insisted on reasonable precautions, but because she'd learned to trust, to love, to believe that she deserved a life beyond survival. Alessandro had taught her that, had shown her through actions and patience and unwavering commitment that not all powerful men were dangerous, that protection could be given freely without strings attached, that love could be gentle instead of violent, and she'd taught him something too, that letting people in didn't make you weak, that caring about someone didn't mean losing them, that the walls he'd built after Juliana's death didn't have to be permanent. They'd saved each other. Not in the dramatic bullets and fire way, though there'd been that too, but in the quiet, everyday way that mattered more, by choosing each other, by building trust, by creating something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. 6 months later, Alessandro proposed. Properly this time. On a Sunday morning, while Puccini played in the background and Haley was stealing his coffee because hers had gone cold. She said yes before he finished asking. They married in a small ceremony at Giuliana's house, just close friends. Sophia is maid of honor. Marcus giving Haley away because her own father had never understood why she'd stayed with Tyler, but Marcus had understood why it was hard to leave. Catherine officiated, because it felt right to have the woman who'd helped Haley find her voice be the one to witness her choosing a future built on trust instead of fear. In her vows, Haley promised to love Alessandro fiercely, to trust him completely, to build a life worthy of the second chance they'd both been given. Alessandro promised to protect her always, not from life, but through it. To stand beside her, not in front of her. To see her as his equal, his partner, his home. And when they kissed, sealing promises made in hope instead of desperation, Haley felt something shift in her chest. The last piece of Tyler's hold on her shattered, gone, erased. She was finally, completely free. Not because the monster was dead, though he was, but because she'd chosen to live, to love, to believe in a future brighter than her past. Years later, when people asked Haley Cross-Ferraro how she'd survived, how she'd escaped, how she'd rebuilt, she'd think about that first night at Luminera, about the man who'd refused to let her be invisible, about the protection that came without conditions, about learning to trust again despite every reason not to, and she'd smile and say the only thing that mattered. I chose to believe I deserved better, and then I built a life that proved it. Because that was the truth, the whole truth, the only truth that mattered. She hadn't just survived the darkness, she'd built something unbreakable inside it. And that light, that hard-won, carefully constructed, fiercely protected light, would never go out again.